Will Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott sign a contract extension before week one? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. On today's show, we're going to answer your mailbag questions, including what will Ryan Flournoy's role be as a rookie? Will the Cowboys have an improved run game in 2024? But Landon, let's start with a question that I'm not joking. We had at least 30 listeners ask us.
Yeah.
Will Dak Prescott get a contract extension before week one?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And I obviously it's a question we're all asking ourselves. And I wish I had a solid answer to give you a firm yes or a nope. But, you know, I think every day I wake up like all the rest of everyone and pull out Twitter and see if there's any news. And I feel like I go back and forth on what I think is going to happen in this situation on a daily basis. You know, I do think that the conversations that, you know, I do think that there is little point in following the kind of horse race aspect of it in the media. Like, you know, I think even when Dak yesterday tried to tell everyone not to listen to what Jerry is saying in the media, everyone turned what he said into, oh, look at how Dak's pissed at what Jerry said in the media. Yeah. So I tend to think that, you know, time and time again, we've seen these, and literally we just got out of this, right? We literally just got out of this where we have these seemingly contentious, contract negotiations that are happening, you know, through the media and you know, Spider-Man memes and all this stupid stuff that has nothing to do with football. And we all get like distracted, like a squirrel, like a dog chasing a squirrel, right? And it's like, oh, he said this and this had the. I tend to think that if you just ignore all of it and then wait until either the deadline's passed or it's been signed, it's a lot less stress. Because I do think that ultimately what we've learned is that these guys don't even really start fully talking until the deadline is within striking distance. So really everything that happens up until then is just marketing and PR for the contract to be signed. And frankly, you know, the most talks that sometimes happens with these two parties that are involved in contract negotiations during the weeks up until the time that it actually gets done, the most talking that gets done is talking that's done through the media to talk about how, oh yeah, we're talking. So I think I know I didn't really answer the question very well, but I think that the truth is that we won't have an answer until an answer has to be made, and then the two parties will come together and they'll either hammer out the differences that they have, and we'll have a deal before the season starts, or we'll go into the season wondering whether Dak is going to sign a deal during the season or just wait until the end of the year and you know. Ask for Jerry's yacht, as someone said on Twitter yesterday.
Here's my just read on the situation from the outside with very, very, very little inside information, right? I have a feeling that the Cowboys and Dak's agency are going to talk over the weekend, right? Whether it's Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And that'll probably be the time where they have their most heated conversation about this, right? Like the most intense conversation. And I think if a deal is going to get done, it's going to get done during that 3-day period, right? Because once you get to Wednesday, you're looking ahead to week one. Like you're getting
Mhm.
ready for week one. So, and I don't know about you, but to me, it feels like if a deal's not done in week one, Dak just doesn't want to have contract extensions during the season. I kind of feel like if a deal's not done in week one, it's not going to get done during the season. Would you agree with that?
I don't know. I kind of got that. I understand where you're getting that impression just based on how the tone of it yesterday was.
Well,
But
and
I
how
also
it's gone before. Like Dak has just kind of gone this like once we hit week one, we're not talking contract stuff, right? Like
yeah, that's true. That could be something that he's kind of mandated with his agent. So yeah, I mean, look, I think a couple other things that we hadn't mentioned is if you look at the structure of CeeDee Lamb's contract that he just got, man, it sure looks hollowed out for a big quarterback contract in the upfront part of the years, right? Like it definitely looks to be structured in a way that they expect to be paying a quarterback a bunch of money
yeah.
in his first year. So, uh, yeah, I mean, I think every single time I start to feel a little bit confident about it or a little bit not confident about it, some other piece of news or some other angle comes out and kind of changes it. So, uh,
Here's the other part for me. I think, again, I don't know, but I think that the Cowboys and Dak probably have the yearly amount agreed upon. The
maybe, yeah.
difference that they're having is the same thing that happened with CeeDee Lamb is the number of years. My guess is that the Cowboys would like 5 years, but would settle for 4 years.
Yeah.
I wonder if Dak is pushing for 3 years and
Yep.
might settle for four. If
I think I mean that's where we are with the last time we were in this
Yeah.
conversation with Dak and with CD, right? Is
Yeah.
that the Cowboys want that flexibility of that extra year to move the money around a little bit better. And for Dak, obviously, he wants another opportunity to take another bite at the apple before he retires. So, I think again, they could completely. This could be a case where, like, they're going to fold to Dak's demands because let's be honest, like the Joneses don't have any leverage
They
here.
don't.
Like, the only leverage they have is time, right? And so maybe what they do is, and it's not even really leverage; it's more just kind of bluster, right? I think ultimately part of this may be, hey, let's wait until the last minute before we take our terrible medicine, so that we, project some sort of like control over the situation, or at least, all right, fine, I think they know that they're over a barrel, and maybe by waiting until the absolute last minute before signing the deal that they know that they have to sign for Dak is their way of being like trying to project strength to the rest of the NFL, which doesn't really work too well.
All right. So before we move on, final answer: do the Cowboys get a deal done with Dak before week one? Yes or no?
Yes, and real quick, because I think that ultimately what the Cowboys want to do in a lot of ways is kind of play it out. But I think that, and let's see if he's worth the contract. But I don't think that they have the stomach for it with Dak Prescott. So I do think that they eventually get the deal done, probably by before week next week.
I'm gonna say no. I think
Yep.
I think that every day that goes by makes it a little bit more enticing to Dak to see, to hit free agency. And even if the intention is still to come back to Dallas, it's fun to be courted and wanted every once in a while. So I think that, again, I don't feel super strong in that take. I could very easily see a deal getting done, but I'm going to say no. No,
I'll
week
just
deal.
I'll add one more thing. I do agree with you on that point, though. I don't think that if Dak hits free agency, it's a like he's
It's
gone.
not necessarily that he's gone,
Yeah,
right?
I think the Cowboys will end up paying a ton more money than they would have normally.
Yes.
But I think the cap's also going way, way up. They're going to roll over a bunch of money.
Yep.
Maybe they're anticipating this. Maybe that's what they want, and that's the deal they have is Dak. Let's go see you prove it, and if you do, we'll pay you. We'll be the ones to pay you
Yep.
that big free agent money on the other side of this.
All right, let's talk. Yeah, I agree. We'll see. I'm hoping by Monday afternoon, you and I are getting together to talk about a Dak contract, but we shall see. Later, let's talk about Ryan Flournoy, the Cowboys rookie receiver who made the 53-man roster. What will his role be in 2024? We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Are you tired after lunch? Listen, you're not alone. I get the same way every single day. In fact, research shows that over 70% of us hit the wall after lunch. Let a 5-hour energy shot help you leap over that wall instead of crashing into it. With zero sugar and a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5-hour energy website has flavors galore like watermelon, tropical burst, great berry, and so much more. Go try them all. On the site, you even have the option to build your own 12 or 24 pack. You choose the flavors and it's delivered right to your door. Go to 5hourenergy.com. That is the number 5, hourenergy.com to get some 5-hour energy products today. You can use our promo code LOCKEDONFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid through September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, go listen to the Locked On NFL preview. You've already heard the NFC East divisional preview, which is always fantastic. But to become the most informed NFL fan, make sure you check out the entire 2024 Locked On NFL season preview, covering every single division across the NFL, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Landon, let's talk about Ryan Flournoy. We had a question from Tim. What will his role be for the 2024 season?
Yeah, it's funny. They just actually announced a number change from he had 18 and he moved to 80. Which,
I liked 18 better.
I did too. I think that's a better
vibes.
number. And especially since we don't have a ton of other 80s wide receivers at this point, right? Like, so it is kind of odd. So yeah, he's number 80 now. And I think a lot of what we're going to see him be is sort of the kind of the dirty work guy a little bit early on. I mean, he's a bigger guy. He looks like he's a good blocker from what we've seen. I do think that he could, kind of carve out a little bit of a role down in the red zone, just because he does seem to have a skill set that I think will present himself, a lot of opportunities down there. He can get up above the rim. He has some Dez Bryant to his game a little bit. He isn't Dez Bryant, but I mean, he's a little bit on that kind of spectrum, right? And I think that he's a physical, big guy. He's got strong hands, and he's good about getting open. So I think he'll get some red zone looks. He'll definitely be playing a ton of special teams. And then I think, it's similar to what we saw with Tolbert and Brooks. Is he's going to have the opportunity to earn more chances to get on the field. They'll give him snaps in the offense just to see how he handles that. And then we'll see, how he responds to that. If it's not too big for him, if he makes the play that's presented, if he gets open and he catches a football, I'm sure he'll get more opportunities. I think, it's a very similar trajectory from what we saw to Jalen Brooks last year. So
I think he's actually ahead of Jalen Brooks, to be honest.
That might be true, but I think that's
kind of Jalen Brooks from last year. I think he's ahead of Jalen Brooks where Jalen Brooks was at this.
Jalen Brooks,
I think Jalen Brooks is ahead of him on the depth chart now. Just to be clear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I tend to agree that at this point last year, Florida may be a little bit ahead of him, because just because of the fact that Brooks was a surprise for us in the regular season to see that he was getting play. I mean, we thought he had a really good training camp, and we weren't surprised that he made the team. But there's still a step between that and getting opportunities in the regular season. And I do think that Flournoy will have a similar kind of success.
I agree. However, I wouldn't be surprised, Landon, if he's inactive the first month or so of the season, just because you look at the numbers, right? CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert, Jalen Brooks. And then I want to talk about this receiver a little bit. KaVontae Turpin, he did not play a single offensive snap in the preseason. Now, usually that's not a big deal or whatever, but he wasn't dealing with an injury, right? They just didn't expose him at all to even special team snaps. I've got a feeling that KaVontae Turpin is going to have a bigger role on offense than what he had last year. And it's just something we haven't discussed a lot. I wonder if he's going to be the guy that's doing some of the more jet sweeps and maybe some screens and getting some more design touches, because we saw it at times last year. And the fact that we saw zero of it in the preseason makes me wonder what his role is going to be.
Yeah, but we saw a ton of it at training camp, which does lean to your point that I do think that he is going to have a bigger role in this offense. And it wasn't just fluky stuff. Like he there were multiple times when we saw him line up in the backfield and take handoffs. There were obviously lots of jet sweep stuff. I just think, and I mean, on top of that, his presence in the rotation of wide receivers being deployed, like in practice, in 7-on-7s, in 11-on-11s, like in normal game script situations, not necessarily like, they're, specifically getting him on the field to like run a play to him, right? Like he was part of a rotation. I think that he is truly going to be yes, a weapon that they will use as a jet sweep guy, a guy in the backfield, obviously the kick and punt return stuff. Yes, all that. But on top of that, I think he will be part of a wide receiver rotation. He will be one of these guys that is getting snaps, running routes, even if it isn't like I said, specific plays to run through him. That's the upgrade that he's made in the offense. He's actually part of the offense.
And I don't want it to make it seem like he's going to have a massive role in the offense. I was thinking like, if I said like 3.5 touches a game on offense, and that's the over-under, I think that's probably fair. But I do think he's just going to be a more consistent, like week in and week out, where last year, he had like a good game against San Francisco, and then he would be absent for 2 or 3 weeks where you wouldn't even see him take a snap on offense. I have a feeling he's just going to be a more consistent, prominent player in the offense than he was a year ago. And again, if you already have CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert, and then Jalen Brooks rotating in, there's probably just not enough snaps for Flournoy to play much early in the season. But maybe in the second half of the year, he overtakes Jalen Brooks, and he's the quote-unquote wide receiver 4 in this offense.
Yeah, and again, like I think also too, like these guys all kind of have like slightly different skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
So I think part of it will be maybe one week they want to deploy what Flournoy can do against who they're playing. So I think that the Cowboys have always been really good, or at least with McCarthy, they've always been very good about getting these young guys opportunities to get on the field and get their feet wet and kind of feel the game and the speed to see if they do well. And if they do, they give them more opportunities, right? And that's why you see a lot of young guys playing by the end of the year, is because they've gotten opportunities early and in the middle of the part of the season. They've shown that it's not too big for them, that they can perform, that they can win in the NFL level. And now suddenly you've got a great way of kind of distributing touches, making sure that your top end guys aren't getting overworked. It's a long season for the wide receivers too, right? And it's obviously running back is the position that we talk about the most, needing to kind of be able to like distribute touches so as not to work one body down too much. Wide receiver is, as the game becomes more and more pass heavy, that's something that wide receivers need to be aware of as well. They don't have as much body armor usually on them. That's why you see someone like CeeDee Lamb, who knows that he's going to be getting a lot of touches because he's the primary focus of the offense.
Right.
He put on 15 pounds of muscle, so he could, kind of absorb all the kind of contact that he's going to be having. So along those lines, it's good to have a deep bench of wide receivers that you can rely on to be, where they're supposed to be, so that you're not just wearing down your superstar with 30 touches a game, no matter what happens.
I'm excited about the wide receiver core. Now, I understand it's not the most dynamic group, and it doesn't have maybe the top end, it doesn't have the depth of some of these other groups in the league. But I think the unknown of a Jalen Brooks, a Jalen Tolbert, KaVontae Turpin in year 3, I'm kind of excited about it.
I am too. I think that without, they don't necessarily have a brand name, well-known household name wide receiver 3, but they have a guy that I think is a very, very high floor in Tolbert, who I think can, take a step this year.
Yes.
And then I'm just very fascinated with the rest of that group, right? They all kind of bring a little bit of something. And I think collectively, while used together, in conjunction with each other, you can cobble together a nice little balanced, dynamic offense with these guys. And especially if you loop in the tight ends you've got, and Lipke and the running backs, it's a real varied attack. Yes, I'm going to bring up Lipke as a
just thought that was funny.
But
I just wait every podcast.
Every single podcast he's going to be in. So yes, I do think it's an offense that has a lot of options down roster, and it can be very dynamic if it needs to be, depending on the matchup.
All right, Lane, let's talk about the run game. Will the run game for the Cowboys be better in 2024? We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. It's the formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. Everydayers, on Monday's show, Landon and I are going to start giving our predictions for the 2024 season, assuming we don't get a Dak Prescott deal. Again, if we get Dak news, we're going to talk about Dak. But Monday is going to be our prediction show. Tuesday is going to be our bold predictions. Get real deep. A little bit of a take purge to steal from the ringers. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Landon, let's finish up here with a really good question from Brandon. He wants to know, how do you think the run game will look offensively with so many young, inexperienced offensive linemen and a lack of talent at running back?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there was pretty good talent at the running back position last year, and it didn't look great, So I think that the thing that the Cowboys have focused on for their improvement is, fixing the offensive line. I think the ugly truth that we didn't want to discuss at different points last year is that despite the resurgence of his health and his ability to make it onto the field more often and his incredible pass protection play last year, Tyron Smith was just not the same run blocker.
No.
And I think that combined with Zach Martin kind of playing on one leg at certain points and,
Terrence Steele not being 100%.
Terrence Steele not being healthy or healthy, but not 100% for sure.
Yeah.
And then, Tyler Biotish is a good but not great run blocker, it feels like. Yeah. And so I think all of that kind of cobbled together and obviously they had a lot of inconsistent health, just generally speaking. They didn't have a lot of consecutive starts with their starting offensive line. I think that was it. And then again, as I've mentioned before, the missing Jeff Blasco earlier in the season, just really, I think, didn't help with a lot of the kind of organizational aspects of getting together the run game. And especially since it felt like they were going through kind of a system change in how they're running the football. It seems like they kind of have leaned more into a power stuff as a, kind of a little bit away from the outside zone stuff a little bit than they were doing previously. So all of this is to say is that I think that the run game arrived week one as a complete mess. There was just between injuries, between the fall off of some veterans, between Blasco being gone and not being able to kind of teach the details or coach the details there with the running backs. I think it was just a lot. So you've got a new center. You've got a guy that you feel like is, he's a rookie, obviously, but he's a little bit bigger, stronger guy, a finisher that you feel like might be better in the run game. We've seen positive things from Guyton so far. He's a little bit younger, so he's a lot younger. So you hope that he's going to have a little bit fresher legs and the ability to move some people off the ball. And then, like the simple things, like both Zach Martin and Terrence Steele are way healthier than they were. Zach Martin was okay at this point, but he was still kind of working back into shape from his deal.
Missing out on all camp. Yep.
That's right. And then Terrence Steele, obviously a year removed from that ACL surgery. So I think the offensive line and the coordination of the offensive line is where the real difference is going to be made. And I think that that's honestly the areas in which you can have the most effect on the run game, as opposed to, subbing in running back talent, which does have an effect, obviously. But I think if you're trying to fix the run game, you got to start up front and make sure that the guys up front are doing what needs to be done to get the holes for any running back behind.
No, I still have my doubts that the run game is going to be dramatically better than it was last year because I don't love the running back talent. And when you are starting two rookies, there's always your consistency game to game, snap to snap probably won't be there. But there are some other like little factors out there that I think could help. For example, Jake Ferguson is going into year 3. I would anticipate him being a better blocker, as he gets older. Luke Schoonmaker in year 2, a pretty good blocker as a rookie. We just know that these guys typically take a couple years to improve there. So maybe the little improvements around the edges will actually help a little bit. They don't need a rushing attack that averages 5 yards per carry for this to be a successful run game. What they need is to be able to convert in short yardage and to be able to run the ball at an adequate rate when teams know you're going to run the ball, right? Like it's 3rd and 3 and we're running the ball. You better get a first down. Or it's 1st and 10. We can't only get 1 yard here. We need at least 4 yards to keep us ahead of the chains. Like that's how we're going to determine if this run game is successful.
Yeah, I mean, really, look, you've got Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb on the outside, and Jake Ferguson is a passer and Cooks. Like, there should be plenty of room for the run game to operate in here, right? Like, the pass offense will provide opportunity for the run game to have good looks, good boxes. We need the run game to be efficient. Right. That's what we need. We need an efficient run game. It doesn't need to be dominant. It doesn't need to be the best run game in football. We're not trying to come downhill on every team that we're playing.
Right.
But when these guys start expending resources to double CeeDee Lamb, to try to stop Cooks from taking the top off, to keep Ferguson from operating in the deep middle part of the field, then the Cowboys need to be able to take advantage of those hefty box advantages that they have in those situations and punish defenses for playing the pass more than the run. That's really the issue, is that if you can't punish the defense for playing the pass and thereby kind of being able to slow down your vaunted passing attack, then what are we doing here? We've got to get these guys into favorable defensive formations by making them, by pummeling the rock at them until they've decided that they want to drop a safety down, and that gives you more opportunity down the field.
That is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. Go check out the Locked On NFL season preview on YouTube starting on September 3rd at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also watch it on the Amazon Fire TV channels app. The Locked On 2024 or Locked On NFL season preview is the kind of analysis, insight, entertainment that you can't find anywhere else. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Go check out our show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosier. Enjoy your holiday weekend, and we will see you right back here on Monday.